lot to process. They've been 20 years later.
I can never come to grips with she's gone.
But the plane being overweight was just the beginning of the issue.
Definitely could have been on the level of Beyonce.
Oh my God, you are going to be amazed what they found in Aaliyah's autopsy report. The truth that's been hiding beneath decades of headlines is absolute in those final moments.
R&B sensation and actress Aaliyah Autopsy's life was cut short on the 25th of August 2001 after she and 8 others died in an airplane crash shortly after takeoff from an island in the Bahamas. Nicknamed Baby Girl, the star and her entourage had just completed shooting the music video to her hit single, Rock the Boat, when the accident happened.
Listen closely, because Aaliyah's death wasn't just your typical Hollywood tragedy. No, no, no. This was an absolute catastrophe that should never have happened. And the worst part? It could have been avoided.
According to a new book called Baby Girl, better known as Aaliyah, by Kathy Ian Doley, a source is claiming that Aaliyah was hesitant to get on the plane the day of the plane crash. The source says that Aaliyah was given a sleeping pill and carried onto the plane unconscious before the fatal crash happened in the Bahamas. Kingsley Russell, who was 13 at the time, was in the car that drove Aaliyah and her team to the airport for their return flight to Miami. According to Kingsley Russell, they took her out of the van and she didn't even know she was getting boarded on a plane. Russell says she went on that airplane asleep. Now, Aaliyah was in the Bahamas shooting the video for Rock the Boat, and Twin Russell says that one of her team members gave her a sleeping pill, and shortly after that, they boarded the plane, and that is when the tragic incident took place.
Honey, Aaliyah's name has been everywhere since that fateful day. In music, pop culture, the most terrifying question imaginable. Could our beloved princess have known what was coming? Did she actually beg to escape her tragic fate? I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
The plane crash that killed a rising star in the world of music and film. Reaction today after Aaliyah and 8 others were killed when their plane went down. Good evening, I'm Lauren Glassbergen for Sandra Bookman.
And I'm Tim Fleischer. The plane, just after taking off for Florida in perfect weather, suddenly plummeted to the ground. Investigators now saying one of the engines apparently failed. Along with 8 passengers, Aaliyah, a young Brooklyn native and a talented singer and actress. Jeff Rosten is live in Times Square with more on her life. Jeff.
And Aaliyah had a huge following, not only here in New York City, but nationwide. Only 22 years old, this pop sensation was a popular singer. She was an actress in some movies recently, even a Grammy nominee. Tonight, her family is in mourning. Fans asking, why her?
Picture this, it's 2001, and Aaliyah Autopsy is absolutely slaying. She wasn't just another R&B star, sweetie. She was the star. At just 22, this goddess was completely revolutionizing music with that heavenly voice of hers and that effortless style that had everyone shook. Those albums like 1 in a Million and bops like Are You That Somebody weren't just regular songs, darling. They were complete cultural resets that had the whole industry gagging.
It was one of her last live performances, Aaliyah on The Jay Leno Show. And it was performances like this that have so many wondering what could have been for the Detroit-raised princess of R&B.
I mean, I believe it was limitless. She was in movies. She was everywhere. She was definitely could have been on the level of Beyonce.
Yeah, when people talk about Aaliyah, they not only talk about her accomplishments, which were, of course, considerable as a singer and actress, but the conversations always seem to move on to what could have been.
So many people wonder. She was frequently called refreshingly different and had that star power to appeal to mainstream as well as the true hip-hop and R&B fans. Tonight, we celebrate her life and we hear from those who knew the 22-year-old so well, people right here in Detroit.
Aaliyah's death left fans, family, and others in the music industry wondering, what could have been?
I think about it all the time. Sometimes when I'm playing her songs on the radio now, I just have a moment, just reflect and say, hey, I'm thinking about you, Aaliyah. You know, I know her spirit is doing something right now because she's the kind of spirit that'll last forever.
She could be, you know, considered a queen of her generation. I think she could have been anything she wanted to be.
People have compared her to, she could have been bigger than Beyonce.
Well, that possibility is there for sure. I think that she was on that trajectory for sure.
But then came that horrible day, August 25th, 2001. Aaliyah had just wrapped up filming her Rock the Boat video in the Bahamas. The shoot, absolutely gorgeous, but it was also exhausting, and honestly, the whole thing turned into a complete disaster. The production was running so far behind schedule, flights were getting switched around like crazy, and there was this awful chaos surrounding everyone's departure plan.
When the twin-engine Cessna crashed, witnesses said it rolled hard to the left after taking off and fell almost straight down. There have been unconfirmed reports that the pilot, Luis Morales of Fort Lauderdale, may have questioned the amount of cargo and passengers to be loaded, and that's one of the first areas investigators will look into.
One thing we may discover that we can determine the weight of the luggage, which may help the investigators in determining whether the plane had an overload.
The crew that perished in the crash traveling with Aaliyah was scheduled to come back to South Florida on Sunday with the charter company Sky Limo in this 15-passenger plane, which can carry up to 4,500 pounds of fuel, passengers, and luggage. But for some reason, Aaliyah and her entourage chose to leave on Saturday afternoon in the smaller Cessna.
We feel very terrible about what happened. It was obviously a terrible tragedy. One of those things of fate that, if she'd been on this plane that next day, maybe this all wouldn't have happened. We all wouldn't be here.
Now, here's where it gets really intense. According to what people said years later, Aaliyah was completely drained and feeling super uncomfortable. And get this, one witness dropped this bombshell. They claim she actually tried to resist getting on that plane. Can you even?
On August the 25th, as you heard earlier, 2001, Aaliyah and 8 others died in this fiery plane crash just a minute after taking off from an airport in the Bahamas. Sadly, no one survived. Now, she'd been filming a music video just 200 miles east of Miami. A witness has since come forth claiming Aaliyah was given a pill before she got on the flight. What have you uncovered about that allegation?
Yeah, the new book, Baby Girl, reveals some new details about the final moments before that tragic accident. And according to the author, Aaliyah was sitting in a taxi as her team and the flight crew argued nearby about whether or not to take off, and she complained of having a headache. Now, reportedly, a baggage handler nearby said that someone from her entourage gave her a pill. She took the pill, and that right after, she fell into a very deep sleep. So deep, in fact, that she was carried onto the airplane still asleep and may not have even been aware that she was on the airplane. Now, we should say we don't know what that pill was. It could have been aspirin. Maybe she was just very tired from a long video shoot. And the baggage handler did say that she took it willingly. But it does reveal some new information about those final moments.
The crash was absolutely devastating, loves. It happened in an instant. The plane was literally in pieces just yards from the runway. The engine, destroyed. The wings, torn apart on impact. Aaliyah and 5 others died right there and then. 3 more passengers passed away shortly after. I can barely type this without tearing up.
The plane was ready for departure. Positioned on runway 27, the west-facing side, Captain Morales powered up his plane and began the takeoff run. The plane would use little over half of the runway to accelerate to takeoff speed. Captain Morales angled his plane into the air and immediately experienced difficulty in controlling the aircraft. In the plane's very short flight, the aircraft peaked at an altitude under 100 feet above the runway. As the plane was highly unbalanced, the Cessna pitched into a high nose-up attitude. The left wing began to drop as not enough lift was being generated by the wings to sustain the excessive weight of the aircraft. This led into a left bank and the nose dropped. In the following seconds, the plane fell to the ground. In a nose-down left bank attitude, the Cessna crashed into the ground in a marshy area just beyond the end of the runway. A fire consumed the wreckage of the aircraft. 8 of the plane's 9 occupants were dead, killed when the plane crashed. There was one initial survivor, Aaliyah's own bodyguard, Scott Gallen. He was found by first responders, but he passed away shortly after the crash. The investigation put the accident down to multiple factors: an overweight plane, improper distribution of the weight, an unqualified pilot, falsified documents, and poor airline management.
At first, everyone thought it was just a tragic accident. But hold on to your seats, because when the investigators and coroners started putting all the pieces together, The truth was absolutely shocking.
Some are wondering whether the crash that took Aaliyah's life was truly an accident. Despite no definitive evidence, some online sleuths believe that Aaliyah's death may have been organized to protect famous faces in the music industry who may have been involved in Diddy's alleged crimes. More intriguing, however, is a detail concerning the moments before the fateful plane crash. According to the Daily Beast, Aaliyah had a known fear of flying. Some question why she would have boarded the private plane, which was small and overloaded with luggage, a contributing factor in the crash. An eyewitness whose family reportedly owned the taxi company Aaliyah and her team used to get to the airport claimed to have seen her being carried onto the plane unconscious.
Just imagine this nightmare. Did she have time to realize what was happening? Did our angel know her precious life was slipping away? I'm literally shaking thinking about it.
But then I'm like, the autopsy reports as at then should probably have been able to say if there was in her body or... But
it was
really
the pilots that they were alleging
that
had the name and its license. Just according to them, they were trying to switch the narrative. The pilot wasn't licensed to fly, he had the name and all that many stories. It's just crazy that this book is coming out now. Even the author said she was with Aaliyah before she went on that plane.
I mean, there have been so many things.
That's why the story is important for her to even go proper and do the investigation proper.
Things around Aaliyah. So many unfinished businesses, even her relationship, her love life, you know, everything that has been around her. People have so many questions. Not surprised that this book is coming out. And I think that it's closure for some people as well.
For her.
Those absolutely chilling questions made headlines when people started looking at the autopsy report again, and honestly, they made everything about the crash even more horrific. Aaliyah's death wasn't just quick and tragic. It might have been absolutely terrifying. I can't even...
Weather conditions were good, so the plane took off around 6:45 p.m. The plane began flying at high speed over the runway 27 and took off quickly. It banked to the left as it reached an altitude of about 40 feet above the runway. Suddenly, the aircraft tilted forward and hit the marshy terrain with its left wing and nose. The aircraft then rolled around before finally coming to a stop about 300 feet before the end of the runway, heading east. The plane had sustained heavy damage, and a fire broke out after the crash. About 135 square meters of the south side of runway 27 was covered with the wreckage. Lewis Key, a 25-year-old charter pilot who worked on an aircraft about half a mile away, witnessed the crash. He saw the Cessna crash when it was only 60 to 100 feet above the ground. The man ran to a fire truck and was horrified when he arrived at the crash site. It was an awful sight. Some bodies were so badly disfigured, you couldn't identify them. And two guys were alive, one screaming and screaming for help. He was horribly burned all over, said charter pilot Lewis Key. I've seen crashes before, but that was probably one of the worst ones, he said. It was pretty devastating. The aircraft was broken into pieces, and some of the seats were thrown from the aircraft. First responders on the scene found Aaliyah's body about 20 meters from the wreckage. She was immediately deceased. According to a later autopsy report, she had severe burns and head injuries. Just before the collision, she had gone into shock that weakened her heart. The coroner later indicated that even if she had survived the accident, her injuries were so severe that she might never have fully recovered. Aaliyah was only 22 years old.
But wait, it gets even worse. The investigation revealed some truly disturbing tea. That pilot, Luis Morales III, he wasn't even qualified to fly the Cessna. They hired him literally days before the man had been on probation for possession just 2 weeks before. The audacity.
2 weeks before the crash, Aaliyah's pilot, Luis Morales, had been on the wrong side of the law when he got arrested for possession of cocaine and got probation after a traffic stop on July 7th revealed traces of cocaine in his car. The autopsy further revealed traces of cocaine and alcohol. Shockingly, this pilot was not certified to fly the ill-fated plane. Luis Morales was on probation for theft charges in the same period. Similar criminal charges in November of the previous year included stealing pencils, pens, a cigarette lighter adapter, panel lights, and aircraft tools. He got 3-year probation with no adjudication, meaning that his record would have been cleared if he had completed probation. Luis Morales was often in trouble with the authorities and was on probation when flying this plane. Uncertified. The reports of the plane crash exposed that Luis Morales was not certified to fly the 10-seat Cessna. While he was a pilot, he was not certified to fly this specific plane safely. More shocking news revealed that the pilot was only trained for 3 weeks to fly this size of an aircraft before the fatal crash. This information was revealed to the public by colleagues who had trained him. Luis worked for Blackhawk International Airways and had been placed at the controls 2 days before the accident.
This wasn't just someone being careless, honey. This was pure recklessness. The authorities later spilled that the plane was 700 pounds overweight when it took off. Combined with Morales not even being certified, this flight was basically a disaster waiting to happen. Poor Aaliyah and her team had no idea they were walking into an impossible situation.
Regardless, to lay it out bluntly, the plane was overweight. To break down the specifics, according to the accident report, the Cessna 402 has a maximum takeoff weight of 6,300 pounds, or 2,857 kilograms. The maximum takeoff weight refers to not the weight the plane is carrying, but the total gross weight of the plane as a whole. People, luggage, fuel, and actual weight of the plane combined. It was estimated by the investigation that, in this case, the weight of the plane, the 9 occupants exceeding the recommended 8, the cargo and baggage of the passengers, and the fuel that was in the tanks, came in at 941 pounds, or 426 kilograms over the maximum takeoff weight limit. To further note, it is likely that the actual weight of the plane was thought to be even greater than this. One piece of luggage was never found at the crash site and was not factored into this calculation. But the plane being overweight was just the beginning of the issue. This doesn't explain why the plane crashed. The distribution of that weight is a critical factor to know before we actually look at the events of the very short accident flight.
But here comes the most heartbreaking tea of all. Before the crash, some crew members actually spoke up about the overloaded plane, but everyone was so pressed about finishing the shoot and getting back to work that they ignored these warnings. And Aaliyah, according to one account, she didn't even know she was getting on that doomed flight. I cannot.
Before they could leave, Lewis had some disagreement with the crew because he warned them that there was too much weight on board for a safe flight. But because they had waited so long, they were going to leave anyway. According to several sources, Aaliyah was known to be a nervous flyer. On this fateful day, she was very anxious about getting on the plane. She had a headache and felt uncomfortable because of her nerves, so she decided to spend some time in the back of the cab that took them to the airport. As she sat there, one of the crew members approached her to ask what was wrong. When she expressed her concerns about the plane and the flight, she said she did not want to be on the flight.
In the months after we lost our angel, Aaliyah's family, who were absolutely devastated as you can imagine, took legal action. They filed lawsuits against everyone involved, the video production company, the airline, all of them. And yes, they got settlements eventually, but let's be real, no amount of money could ever bring back our princess.
Oh God. Believe it or not, I was thinking about her music. I was thinking about because I worked on it every day, very obsessively. So I felt like she was with my mom.
So does it make you more comfortable that Aaliyah might be there with your mom, or did you feel worse that she had to go through this as well 20 years ago?
No, I'm sure Aaliyah and my mom are in the same place. Yeah. After that experience, it's no question in my mind.
Where were you when you found out about the plane crash?
I was on my farm in Georgia, and got a call, and somebody says, you got a long distance call, it's from the video shoot. Because I knew that they were shooting a video, obviously. And I ran to the phone, and I spoke to the director, Ike Williams, and he said, Aaliyah's gone. And I was devastated. I immediately called Minister Farrakhan and asked him, could he call God? Could he talk to God? He said, oh, my brother.
It's a lot to process, even 20 years later.
I can never come to grips with she's gone.
Aaliyah's light continues to shine so bright, darling. Her music, her iconic style, and her incredible story live on.
My memories of Aaliyah will be I met her at first when Missy was recording a record that we did with her. It was like I've known her all my life. And the last time I saw her, she had a party in LA. And it was like we had been friends forever. And I remember being in that party and we danced all night. Like it was just like, I can't really describe it, but it's just like, this was my girlfriend from a long time ago, you know, and we hadn't known each other a long time at all. So those are my memories, and she was just such a sweet spirit, very genuine, and I'll always cherish that moment. Oh, Rock the Boat is my favorite Aaliyah song. I do all the dance moves. I think I'm on the boat. All of that, that's like my favorite.
Now spill the tea in the comments. What's the most unsettling detail you've heard about Aaliyah's death and all the mysteries around her autopsy? Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that bell for more deep dives into the most haunting and suspenseful celebrity stories. Buys.